Okay, we're back. What's up, Ben? Trying to see if we can't knock this thing out. Right now, I'm not super happy with it. Um, Mainly, it's the numbers. Really, the numbers just don't pop. But you know, I do leave my coffee over there. Okay. Man, today's a day that any lesser person would have just stayed home. It wouldn't have gone into work. I'm like, if I don't go into work, I definitely don't want to go into work the next day. Like I can't not go into work. That's a disaster. So let's see. This is about to get super messy. I hate what I'm gonna have to do here. Let's get a brush of unusual size. Get this SS Camo Black or whatever the hell it's called these days. Nazi black. All right, let's do this. Yeah, everything was way too much trouble today. A normal person would have just not gone in. They would have just stayed in bed. And it's just the vaccine, the shingles vaccine. It just really like brought me down. Luckily I don't have a headache or anything. It's just like everything's too much trouble. Lack of power. This is what we normally do on the tracks, and it works out just fine. All right, we'll flip this one the other way. Put more of this shit on here. So after I picked out this numbering system for this particular vehicle, picked out the numbers for this particular vehicle, I go on freaking ScaleMates and I find out that Dragon's Ferdinand has the decals for this exact vehicle. And the numbers are just a slightly different size. Well, I didn't have a choice. I just had the one style numbers, which I like the style that the numbers are in, but the ones that are on this particular vehicle and the decal that comes with it is more roundy, so to speak. They're more Art Deco looking. That's probably the best way to describe it. If you know what Art Deco stuff looks like, they look like that. Where these look more like an aerial narrow, so to speak. Yeah, rule number one, don't get discouraged. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this away, we're going to rinse this, we're going to let this brown dry, and then we're going to come in and we're going to weather the rest of this vehicle with the colors from the dirt. I mean, after I cleaned myself up a little bit. Okay, we'll let that dry. I'll be right back. All right, now we're going to get U.S. flat earth and Iraqi sand. Tommy T-Bone Davis. You make horror masks. You have a website? Not that I want any. You know, some people are scared of clowns. I'm scared of demonic masks. I don't play around with shit like that. Like that Krampus thing they do in Britain, in Germany. That shit wouldn't fly here. Like, it's just a costume. Why did you have to kill him? I don't know. It looked like Satan. I don't know. Evil shit. You do? What is it? I'll check it out. You know, there's some stuff. There's a lot of stuff that, like, I don't do that I think is really cool. You know, any of the people that like do like the if you go to some place like, you know, Universal Studios or something like that. Oh, I'm not scared of zombies. They move too slow. So, true story. You've probably seen this movie, Donnie Darko. I've never seen Donnie Darko, but when you're flipping around to see, you know, what to watch on Netflix or something like that, it'll have like the cover of all the movies, almost like they had them at Blockbuster, right? It'd be in the little case, whatever the movie was. And every time I come across the cover of Donnie Darko, it has that rabbit, and the rabbit isn't supposed to be like demonic or anything like that, but he freaking creeps me out, man. I get like a chill down my spine. I can't deal with shit like that. You know, because demonic stuff, like, you can't just be like, well, we'll just light it on fire. Like, it just gets bigger, right? It'd be like giving me caffeine. Giving a demon fire is giving me caffeine. Like, you know, it makes us better. No, but that's pretty cool, you know? And I'm sure, you know, you got it down. You know, you just rinse and repeat. You can just do things over and over again. You know, like I tell people, the thing about being an experienced painter is, you know, you have this vision of what you want it to look like. And if you don't meet that, it's a disappointment. And as far as experience goes, the more experienced you are, the sooner you start realizing as you go down the process that you're not going to be happy with the results. And the first time you do something, you're never going to know that. But as you go on, like, you realize, okay, I need to change tack, or I'm not going to be happy with how the results are. Instead of, you know, going all the way through and then realizing, yeah, I wish I would have realized this wasn't going to turn out how I wanted to. I would have maybe taken some other steps. So this is just really kind of subtle differences. This is Kursk. Kursk is, you know, dusty as hell. And we're going to do the same thing to the track, but the track's got to dry a little bit. This thing can't kick up that much dust. Can't really pick up any speed. You get passed by somebody on a unicycle. You know, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to dress up in anything scary for Halloween. Had lots of toys with guns though, so that evens itself out, you know. Because you got these people out there, my kid, I don't want my kid playing with toy guns. I'm like, well, you want them playing with real guns? No. Well, then have them play with toy guns, man. They don't hurt nothing. And this is pretty subtle. Like, I can't even tell much. So we're going to do Iraqi sand. That's the other one. My thing is my mind goes 1,000. I want to do too much. Yeah. That what you do for a living, or that's just a hobby thing? Man, I wish I could do this for a living, but you know, if I did that, then I'd be rushed. So and so wants their Ferdinand painted by tonight. No, I ain't doing that. This keeps me from ending up on the news. And you know, some people say, oh, I don't have an airbrush. Man, you can do all this without an airbrush. Airbrush just, the only reason I got into an airbrush is because I couldn't stand the sealing and the priming spray paints. They were just too damn stinky. They're like toxic. Well, it doesn't look that good from your vantage point. Well, when we're done, this is going to look better than a real vehicle. You know, a lot of miniatures painters do better stuff than real vehicles because we have to force the perspective and exaggerate contrast and things like that. It looks better than a real vehicle. You look at a real vehicle, it's like drab. And then the big difference is when you go and actually seal this with a spray. I'm just not happy with those numbers. They're too subtle. And it's because it's not that they're hollow black, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's that the black just isn't very thick. All right. Let's start getting an inkling of what this is going to look like together. Well, it's like the same thing you do. I'm sure you've got methods, and it's like somebody doesn't know what the trick. This is all trick, you know. This might be a little too wet, but fuck it. I actually don't like the tracks being metal. You know, most World War II tanks have completely metal tracks. Yeah, yes, there's exceptions. But most tanks are completely metal tracks. Certainly every German tank, although maybe the half tracks aren't. But, you know, an old rust is really dark brown. You know, I don't go for that whole orange type of rust. Doesn't look right. I mean, yeah, it'd be that color but as soon as you start like moving around, that stuff's gonna flake off. So, and this doesn't necessarily have to be durable because we're gonna seal this. This is gonna be mounted on a stand. It's not like we're gonna drive this thing around going broom broom and all that stuff. So. Still trying to get the tech dink down. Yeah, I'm not great with technology, and not because I'm anti-technology. It's like they keep changing it. You know, they don't have things long enough for you to enjoy it. Like, why bother reading the manual on everything? By the time you figure it out, what you've learned is now outdated. All right, let's do the same thing with Iraqi sand. I'm not even gonna rinse the paint. I like Iraqi sand because it's kind of a warm color. If you use something any more than that, it's just gonna look too chalky. Which, there's a time and place for that, but I really didn't want that to be the case here. And then, of course, when it's on this vehicle, we can, tinker with it as we need to, but we just need to get most of this track on here. I opted to not secure this in any way to the tank, to the vehicle. And I'm doing this really sloppy, as usually my dry brushing is pretty precise, but this is an old model with tracks that are really old and rubber, and it's not state of the art or anything. I want to see what this looks like when we put this on here. That's going to be the real. That's going to be the real show here. Styrofoam, I haven't messed with that a whole lot. Yeah, that soaks up paint like crazy, doesn't it? Sometimes you just got to find out, materials that you don't think are used for something, and you just use them and they just turn out amazing. Like, I was making some trees out of scouring pads, and I made trenches out of a pool noodle. And one of the things that I didn't have for the longest time, and I just got last year, was a hot glue gun. Man, a hot glue gun is awesome to have. And I never had one. All right, this is going to go in here. And this thing is actually, whoever designed this did a pretty good job of making it look like the track is under tension. I mean, they really did a good job with this. So I'm just going to leave this, I'm going to leave the thing alone. The only thing I wish I could get into, if I had the time for it, would be design 3D printed vehicles, but there's people that are already better at that are already doing it. So I do have somewhat of a CAD background, so I don't mind letting somebody else 3D print stuff for me or design it, whatever. I want to do my own painting. Like, I would never sub this to somebody else. Okay, that looks pretty good. We need to do some tinkering on here. Let's take this same Iraqi sand. Let's get almost all of it off. And let's see what we got back here. So, on one hand, the numbers are really subtle, but on the other hand, it's not like, the camouflage will be ruined by these bright ass numbers that are on it, which would defeat the purpose altogether. All right, we already did the drippings, as I like to call them. And we can see a staple down here. That's going to be covered in goop. We'll put some on there. That'll be completely covered up with that. We have some tools to paint here. A jack. This little wooden box, which I put up there, and I didn't realize there was one back here as well. We'll paint those wood. I don't want them weathered. I want them to stand out. I'm gonna wash up. I'm gonna be right back. I gotta show you. Let's first of all, let's kill this. That's just showing a whole other color. It doesn't exist there. Let's see if I can get an accurate representation of this. Now the number is going to look a little glossy, but once we clear coat that, oh, that's a terrible picture. I'm a terrible picture taker. We're not done yet, though. You got to work on those edges, make them even stand out more. And I turned this off because this is great for painting, but it kicks a lot of the white back and just makes it look too faded. Makes it look faded than it really is. I'll be right back. But just to compare, this is the one that came pre-painted from Dragon. It looks like shit. This looks like shit now. Because it doesn't have all the dark areas. It doesn't have the wash and everything. So, worst case scenario, I will weather this one. Or I may repaint it. I haven't decided yet. But that came like this, and you look at this like, oh, this is really well painted. You put it next to this, and like, oh, it looks like crap. Now, the one that does look probably pretty decent next to it is the Yag Tiger. Yag Tiger is one of my, seems like everybody's favorite, and I did do a very cool job on it. And this thing looks just as good. It's because it's that rust color that's just kind of unique. But that's much later. That thing's going to hang out with, let's see, what do we got here? We got Cursed Panther. Where's this Zverevoy, which is the thing that knocks those things out? SU-152. Yeah, there we go. It's just as big. That'd take a month to reload that thing. And this thing is before I start doing the black lining. So we're going to go back and retrofit some of these things. This will look even better. But I really like the Soviet vehicles in Americans because, oh, it's just green. I said, yeah, but you could do a lot of cool shit with it. All right, I'll be right back. Let me wash up. All right. This one does have black lining, but this Vervoy does not. Easy to go back and retrofit. It's pretty much the only thing I've changed. The 200 or so vehicles I've done. I've added that and the drippings. Added the two things that are the most fun to do. All right. Tool time. We got a hammer. We got a mallet over here. We got a ubiquitous German jack, and two pieces of the little wood planky things. That's dry. Let's get a little bit of black here. See if I can get this shit all over me. I seem to be really good at that. Okay, we're gonna need white. I really enjoy using the craft paint for the black and the white because I go through both of them with my painting style. And a brush that's not too expensive. Okay, this is US Field Drab. We want to use something, not that. What's that beige brown look like? Sounds a little bit more subtle. No, that's war paints. Beige brown. Let's use that. And a little bit of magic water. Nothing magic about it, it's just the secret ingredient. Alright, so we're going to paint the jack completely black. Move this 88 out of the way. This could be painted the same color of the vehicle, but I think painting it like it's unpainted adds a little bit of contrast, makes it stand out. We can reach with a paintbrush anything we can see. There's no point in painting things ahead of time and then gluing them on there. That just adds another really annoying step. I'm going to paint this like it has a bracket on the end that holds it into place. Otherwise, it's just like balancing there by the will of God. Okay, the edge of the hammer, the mallet. And that's a wood blocky thing. All right, now let's make a wood color. Let's add a little bit of this with the black, and we're going to paint this little thing. Nope, need to go darker than that. So what this wood block is, it's actually almost every German vehicle had a jack on it. And maybe other countries did, but the German jacks look a certain, they're very unique looking. They have a particular look to them. And every German vehicle had a jack, whether it's an armored car or big nasty like this. You know, the jack the vehicle up and change the road wheels or what have you. And they have this block of wood that you put under the jack to keep it from sinking into the soil under the PSI that is going to be by lifting any vehicle, really. And I mean, these things weigh like 70 tons. I forget exactly how much they weigh. These are like 70-ton vehicles. I think the Tigers are 656. These things are super, super heavy. And these had a tendency to find minefields. You know? Good way to track down a minefield, send this guy in. I'm guessing 70 tons. I bet it'd be funny to see how close I get it. Because this thing has more armor than anything. Ferdinand weight. May even be 72 tons. $65 tons, according to this. Okay. Panzerjäger Tiger. That's what this thing was called. With a P in parentheses, meaning it was a Porsche. Alright, now we got that all brown. Then we'll add more of the core color. Then the straight color. You want this thing to have lines like that on it. You need to believably look like it's a piece of wood. Add a little bit of white to it. Okay? Maybe just one little bit. There we go. I like painting these little things like they're made of wood and they're, obviously they're not. Little cannons and stuff like that. I enjoy doing stuff like that. Alright, what do we got left on this thing? I think that's it. Other than clear coating it. Maybe. Take some of that pale sand. This one's too rough. Not this one. I don't know, I'm thinking this looks pretty good. Other than the numbers that don't pop, but that's okay. They're kind of not supposed to. Alright, so we're going to call this thing Dune, other than clear coating it. Alright, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you guys on the next one, probably in the morning. We'll work on the Tiger 1. That's the next one up. Alright, folks, we'll see you on the next one.